Today, we're presenting 7 powerful and educational books about racism that we believe everyone should read at least once. Hi, it's Andrea here, and this is GT Books, where we expand your reading list with the best books around. If you're new here, make sure to subscribe, and remember that you can find all the mentioned books in the description down below. So let's jump right into it. To help the fight against systemic racism in the long run, it is crucial that we understand it first. And to understand it, we must educate ourselves and gain full awareness of the policies and practices that are preserving these inequalities. So, to take the first step towards your education, here's a list of 7 must-read books about racism. 1. How to be an Anti-Racist by Ibram X. Kendi. In this book, Kendi uses a combination of history, law, science, and his personal narrative to show us what being anti-racist really looks like, and how we can play an active role in building a more equal society. Reading this book requires a high level of self-examination. However, Kendi's honest narrative of his not-so-woke past and slow journey to become anti-racist makes it easier for readers to confront their own ideas. This book is a must-read for anyone who wants to go beyond an understanding of racism to the next step, contributing to the creation of a fair world. 2. So You Want to Talk About Race by Ijeoma Oluo. Bridging the gap between Black Americans and white Americans struggling to understand racial issues, Oluo clarifies the concepts that continue to puzzle some and offend others, and answers the questions most people don't dare ask, like, why am I always being told to check my privilege? What are microaggressions? What is cultural appropriation? And what if I talk about race wrong? All the books in this list will have you learn something, but this one will teach you ways for actually doing the work, and is full of many useful ideas to become a better ally. 3. White Rage: The Unspoken Truth of Our Racial Divide by Carol Anderson. This is an important, even necessary book to understand the history and background of racial injustices in the US. In this quick read, Anderson documents the powerful forces that worked against Black progress from the end of slavery to Barack Obama's presidency. White Rage analyzes laws, political decisions, education and employment opportunities, and all the many policies that were effectively preventing any real possibility of reaching true equality. 4. Biased: Uncovering the Hidden Prejudice That Shapes What We See, Think and Do by Jennifer Eberhardt. Biased is a must-read book for anyone who wants to know how biases are formed, how they reveal themselves, and how our brains are programmed to process them. Eberhardt is a psychology professor at Stanford University and has studied implicit bias for over 30 years, exposing the roots of systemic prejudice. The best part of this book is that the research occurred not only at Stanford, but also inside police department and courtrooms, and she had access to a huge volume of documentation, including footage from police officers' body-worn cameras. In fact, she often takes the reader behind the scenes to police departments that effectively implemented her suggestions. 5. The New Jim Crow: Mass Incarceration in the Age of Color Blindness by Michelle Alexander. Miss Alexander discusses a rather controversial argument that the current criminal laws are a new form of the racialized social control established by the Jim Crow laws. She describes how the war on drugs initiated a series of events that has resulted in the majority of the Black male population to be imprisoned for simple possessions of the drugs that white adolescents are usually expected to experiment with, hence ensuring the supply of human beings to the ever-growing prison industry. The New Jim Crow does an extraordinary job presenting history, social and political circumstances, and all the different branches of the legal system that Black Americans have to face today. 6. White Fragility: Why It's So Hard for White People to Talk About Racism by Robin DiAngelo. As you will sense from this book's reviews, this may be an utter uncomfortable reading. D'Angelo's take on racism is that few white people are actually racist, but most white people participate in racist systems. This concept seems to outrage a vast number of readers, but what they seem to disregard is the very clear line that D'Angelo traces between systemic and personal racism. We should stop taking things so personally when discussing racial issues, as these behaviors prevent any significant cross-racial dialogue and work to reinstate the current imbalance. If you think you're super progressive about race, and most of us think they are, you will be confronted by this book. It's specifically aimed at the people who sometimes don't recognize where they fall short. 7. Between the World and Me by Ta-Nehisi Coates. Written in the form of an open letter from a father to his son, Between the World and Me delivers a comprehensive account of the state of racism in the US today. Coates grew up on the streets of Baltimore in the early 90s and describes his childhood with raw terms. As a black boy growing up in such streets, he was perfectly aware that his own existence was under attack. And in an equally, if not more emotional section, Coates also writes about a college friend who was shot and killed by police. Between the World and Me offers no specific answer, no grand vision, but a honest narration of the experience of a regular African-American man living in the US. In the end, I believe it's something everyone can connect with. A father simply caring for his son. So, these were our 7 must-read books about racism, but I'd love to hear your thoughts about additional books we should have included in this list. And if you have already read one of these, let us know what you think in the comments below. Thank you as always for watching, and I'll see you next week.